Today we're going to be talking to Bill Phillips, my co-founder and EP at Coronation, about 5 different things to think about to make sure you make the most of your investment when you're starting a video project. Welcome to Heralds and Fools, the podcast where we talk shop. We talk about client projects, passion projects, the nitty-gritty details of what makes creative life so fun. Hey, Bill.
Hey, Gary.
The world has changed. When we were early little video makers, people would come to us and they'd say, we want a big flagship video. We're going to slap it on our homepage. We're going to play it for years. Maybe it's even evergreen.
Yep.
That's not the case anymore. That's not what people are asking for.
No.
We talk about flagships sometimes. We talk about us video, functional videos, brand videos, and things like that. But there is a new and increased demand, not for maybe the virality of one individual piece of content, but for a content system, or a package system. And these words coming out of my mouth, I hate them. I hate the word content, but it is useful in this context.
Yeah, and I think that there are some new demands in the market, especially as you're considering an investment like video.
Yeah.
And it's less and less the case that a single one-off, all eggs in one basket kind of video is going to fully accomplish all of the goals that your organization has.
Yeah.
And video is an investment. So going into it, it's important to consider all of the different elements of production that could support your goals just for that one individual piece, but also for peripheral goals as well. And that's really, I think, the first thing that I would want to talk about is just video being an investment.
Is this number one?
Number one.
All right, we're doing 5 things. We're doing 5 things to consider. I want to make a video. Bill stops. He has a sign. He said, think of these 5 things. What's number one? Number one
is that video is an investment. And what that means in this context is considering all of the different ways to capture value in the engagement. So really that's just moving into it, thinking about the primary goal of why you need a video in the first place. What are the things that one individual video can do well? And then what are the things that are on the periphery of that the video could speak to, but not fully solve?
Okay.
And often when you have that kind of a dynamic of we're going into it with this goal, you're going to get other little pieces that kind of are around the edges of that would work as individual standalone videos to help support it.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is like, look, if you're hiring a video team and they go out on production, there are certain logistical things that happen because they're doing that you can extract extra value from.
Yes.
So if I'm shooting a flagship sort of piece for my brand and I'm interviewing 20 people, right? By virtue of people, like if it's a documentary style thing, like some people are going to be great interviews. Some people are going to be okay interviews. Some people are going to be wonderful interviews, but maybe they don't speak to the core thing.
Right.
Right. All of this is all of these resources that you have value implicit to them that could be used in other ways.
Right.
So don't toss them out. Build a library, reuse them, make micro content. You're already investing on the crew going out, get extra value from it.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that a lot of times with just a singular video, a bunch of material gets left on the cutting room floor. And recently we had a client where we were able to repackage the interviews that we did for them to supply basically a year's worth of content for LinkedIn and other purposes.
Yeah, so that was a case where we had, I think, 4 brand videos, and this was, you're talking about for Silvercrest.
Yeah.
So we had 4 core brand videos that were these sort of like evergreen videos, but we had so many opportunities to talk with so many great people that at the end we're like, look, we have all of this content. Much of it is very valuable. Let's take that. Let's turn it into micro content. Let's do drip campaigns. Let's get this as paid advertising in different channels. And that extracted so much more value off of those little, few days of shooting, which those investment was already good in and of itself. and would have been worth the cost of admission, but now we can make that work so much more for the brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important because a lot of people don't realize the logistics of shooting to begin with.
So when you're doing a video, the investment is such that if you're producing a certain level of quality, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of cost to get to a certain threshold of production. And once you get there, the temptation is to go, okay, we've invested in quality,
Yeah.
and that is what we have done.
Yeah.
And quantity is not accessible because we've chosen quality.
Right.
And I think that the opportunity there in considering video as an investment is to say it's not just quality, but we have all the cameras all set up. We have the interviews. We've got everything out here. The crew is here. What are the other kind of periphery things that we can capture or at least be attentive to that would produce more quality content within that context?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's getting into your second point a little bit, which is maximizing production time.
Right.
Yeah. Is making sure that you're using. So the first one is video's investment. Consider it as such.
Right.
It's not throwaway because it takes so much resources. If you're going to invest in it seriously.
Right.
Second is maximize production time. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would say the easy way to think about that is for like documentary style stuff. Documentary is a reactive medium. You can have goals going in, but there is it reacts to the real world. Even if you're doing things like spots for brands where you're interviewing people, you are even with I know I've practiced interviewing a lot. I know how to interview people. I know how to get what I need from an interviewee on set. I still am a little bit at the whim of these individuals and what they're going to give me. Right. So you end up shooting a lot. And so being able to package that, make those extra interviews that you're getting, make those work, that's all straightforward. Does that apply and I know the answer, but how does that apply to animation?
I actually don't know what you have in mind for this.
Oh, I do have stuff in mind.
Okay. Well, then let me kick it back to you in a certain way. But let me first say, when you are going and you're doing a shoot, from all of those interviews that you capture, there's a lot that does get left on the cutting room floor. And there are so many different nuggets within that you could use as standalone content or to put together into different categories that would work together as another video.
Yeah, sure.
But the question that I have for you then is the animation thing.
Yeah, sure.
So is there a way to apply this principle of maximizing production time for animation?
100%. Yeah. It's just so the thing is like a lot of people will come to us and they'll be like, we need an animated piece for something. I think the animated explainer, that age of the animated explainer we might be a little post the age of the animated explainer video. And it's migrated. It seems, well, I don't know how to actually put that. Animated explainers will never go away. They just were seen as standalone pieces more frequently before. Yeah. So if someone was going to do an explainer video, they would make an explainer video for a topic and it was a big statement. But now when we're talking about explainer videos, we're often talking about series. We're often talking about multiple different pieces to bolster our core idea or core campaign. But the thing about animation is animation requires a good deal of man hours to get to a particular aesthetic, to get to particular brand assets. And if you're going to do one and you already have a style established, you have to invest in that for the first video.
Yeah.
The second video starts to snowball because we can reuse these assets. We can reuse these aesthetic ideas. It's as simple as saying, look, we built this character in this one. Let's reuse this character in the second one. They begin to snowball. So it's just as you make more content with these things, with these brand assets that you make, you have more ability to do more with them at cheaper costs. Like it's the same thing.
There's an economy of scale with it, even at the level of quality that you're talking about.
Right. And I think that's the thing is like, we're always pressed. The pressure is always, okay, we're going to make content and we're going to make a whole bunch of videos because we need to now. You know, we're talking when we first, 5 years ago, probably up to about 3 or 4 years ago, you could say, I'm going to make, a few deliverables. Now it's like often we're 20, 30 deliverables for people in different formats. That was never the case before, but it's sort of table stakes right now.
Yeah.
but the cost of entry for quality is still the same. That hasn't changed much.
Right.
So if you're going to do the first one, actually getting to 20, that gap is not as wide as people think.
Yeah. That's really well said.
Yeah, so that's what I would say about animation. Now, live action narrative, there are some economy of scale things you could do, but it is less clear. Documentary and animation, it's like the ability to make more or maximize your production time is there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe less so for narrative stuff, because normally your days are so tight. You have a shot list. You're going in. You have actors for a particular set period of time. There's not as much as you can do then.
Yeah. But even with that, I mean, you can consider, and this is kind of the mindset that I want people to be taking into this, is could we do behind the scenes material for it? Could we pull some of the actors aside and talk about the character? Could we do other different things?
Oh, actually, we did that for Exodus. We did that for Exodus. We had this narrative piece, and then we had 4 breakout things we appended right at the end. It's like, we have the actors. Let's write these microscript and let's do a lead up campaign.
Yeah. Which is
point number 3.
Point number 3, lead up campaigns.
Lead up campaigns and
drip follow up campaigns.
Yeah, right. Because that's the thing is, like, now the way people have view videos is like very different than it was before. We're in a vertical world. We weren't in a vertical world before. We're also in a world where subscribers to channels means fundamentally less than it used to.
Mm-hmm.
And peppering and re-peppering people with this same brand, with the same ethos, with the same aesthetic. That's always been there, but I would say it's not just the big leagues that are doing it anymore. Now it's the small organizations are doing this too.
Yeah.
They have to have full brand systems.
I'd say especially for brands that have less of a video presence, it becomes all the more important to have a lead up campaign or a follow up campaign after the main video is revealed. And we'll see this a lot for like event videos. So there's like an annual event that's a fundraiser or something for a nonprofit. And going into that, there are all the attendees that have signed up for it, and then they have the big event, and then they see the video, and then they go home.
At the big event. You're talking about videos that are made for events.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is, maybe I should rephrase some of that too.
No, it's okay. No, it's, you're not talking about event coverage. I think if people might just be misled, because you're not talking about like going and shooting video of the event. No. You're talking about a gala that has a video as a primary part of the gala.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because this is an annual opportunity for these nonprofits. And so it's very important that this one event showing of this one video goes well. And so having the people there engaging with it in the moment is very exciting.
Yeah.
And the people go, oh, wow, that's great. I love this mission. I would really love to give to this mission. And then they go home, and then everything just like the daily life just hits them again. And the opportunity there with a follow-up campaign is you can tell other parts of that story or other aspects of that mission if there were other
what you didn't
things.
See at the event.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and it's something that's new, but it reminds them of that main video that they saw.
And bolsters it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, and that's just like, I think that this is like, yeah, they just have to, you need more of that now. You need more of that now. Video, the shelf life of video in some ways has changed just because the amount of different videos on the shelf
that
are constantly pushing and making way. It's a terrible analogy, but before, put a video on a shelf, nothing challenged it. Now it's like 40 other videos pop up that second. It's just a different world.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the other benefit of having a campaign, like a lead up or a follow-up campaign, is that it does kind of extend the shelf life of that video because it keeps pointing back to it. You can only point to the same video so many times.
Unless
but
it's
if it's
amazing.
Yeah.
Unless it's really good.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That is the caveat.
Yeah.
But being able to point back to that one piece with new content helps to increase the longevity of it. So even if it is something that is very clearly designated, this is our once a year video that we do, even that kind of a piece would benefit from some contextualization of like, let's get some other videos that help to support that.
Yep. That's awesome. So what are some of the other things that we have another one here that you wrote down? What is it?
the demographics.
Yeah. I think targeting different demographics is possible and more important than it was before. Because when you're doing one video, you typically have a core demo that you're after, maybe a secondary demo. And then, but if you're doing additional content, you can play at targeting different demographics with different ideas and different hooks.
Yeah. I mean, this kind of goes to the principle of if your video is designed for everybody, it's designed for nobody. It can just get so watered down that if you do have varying demographics that you want to try to reach and you try to cram it all into one video, the message becomes less pertinent to the demographics on the fringes of it. So we'll sometimes see this with like schools.
Yeah.
Is they want to play to the student, but then they also want to play to the parent. And those two demographics might have different goals of what they want that school to do for them.
And different decision points for, and then for college specifically, you have parents as a decision maker, or at least involved in the decision. And then you also have students as the primary decision maker. And both of those people have very different senses as to what would be valuable with that education. They're both true, but it's a different decision makers.
Right. And so within an individual interview, if we'd go again with the documentary angle of this thing, docu-style, if you're doing something that's an admissions piece, being able to speak to those two separate demographics as much as you need to is a consideration going into it. Yeah. And sometimes you can do all of it within one video, but sometimes there's a nuance of the way that the admissions work, or there's a certain perk of the school that you want to call out. And you would capture that anyway within one of those interviews, but then to be able to take it and then put it on a pedestal instead of it getting mixed in with all of the other stuff, you just say, this is a really important aspect of this school. Parents, you should know about this. Yeah. And students, this is a really cool thing that you could experience here. You should know about this. And it reduces the pressure of the one video to do everything, and then allows you to be more targeted, because you can also strategically use that to push it to parents, push it to students, and you don't have as much of a marketing challenge when you're going out and you're rolling that up.
So the bottom line for organizations is that the need for more is definitely there.
Yeah.
And video is becoming a backbone or a staple for brand communication. It always has been. It's been on an upward trend of the importance for brand communication for a long time. It used to be more text-based, more image-based. Now it's very video-based. And it basically, I would say it's almost video primary is the way that brands are communicating. And there are low-cost ways to do video. And some of that is in authentic sort of like, I'm on my phone, I'm telling this personal brand sort of stuff. Like there's that, of course. And there's also podcasts. We're here. This is a podcast. This is a low-cost production modality.
Yeah, I mean,
the LinkedIn. I'm just drinking LinkedIn lingo.
Drinked in.
Yeah, drinked in. Cheers.
I'm nervous to drink anything at this point.
Yeah. But even all of that said, if you are doing a high quality campaign where you're trying to make a splash with a big video, there are still ways to maximize the value of that. What are some of the things? This is the last point. Prepare. What are some of the things that brands should do to prepare as they're considering maximizing the potential or going into a campaign?
There's a smaller scale version of preparation, and then there's also a wider one as well. And oftentimes we will look with our clients at sort of an annual basis of what their mission priorities are. And there's a certain level at which, really at a top level, there are efficiencies between different video goals throughout the year. So you can talk about larger campaigns where you can go and capture certain things that would bolster other videos later in the year. And having that kind of cohesive plan on the front is really just a matter of conversation and a matter of priority and just missional understanding. And then there's also the component, which is the more like, we're going to go do this one shoot. What are the things that we should be keeping in mind for this? And for that, it all ties back into the larger missional goals. But for the individual shoots, it's often solved in pre-production, which is just in that kickoff conversation saying, while we're there, who are we talking to? Is there anything cool happening? Are there natural opportunities for B-roll capture that we might be able to get here and then use somewhere else later? What kind of format do we want to be shooting this in? Is it all horizontal content or is it vertical content too? It's going to affect our framing.
Yeah, I think Christian, you just directed a video recently where you ran 2 cameras at once for this very purpose. Isn't that right?
Yes, I did, Gary.
Thanks for your...
What's probably because like it's so out of the norm to frame for 9x16.
Yeah.
That the creative minds in us, we just want to shoot something that's super letterboxed.
Yeah.
But then we end up screwing up the 9x16. It's disgusting.
Yeah. So basically what Christian did on this shoot is you just had 2 cameras where they weren't on the same tripod or anything, right? They were just, but they were right next to each other.
Yeah. And one camera was specifically vertical.
Yeah. So, and that's like, I think that's just like the reality.
Well, that's the benefit of planning.
Yeah, right.
Like,
and if you're actually thinking about what the end goal is, otherwise you're caught in a position where you have a video that you paid for and you don't know how to utilize.
Yeah. That really is the difference in the end goal of the video, because there can be things that you capture in 16:9 and then after the fact you think, well, maybe we could get some vertical stuff out of it. As an afterthought, you have much less flexibility in the way that you do it.
Yeah.
And the end result isn't going to be as polished. Whereas if you go into it and you say there's certain elements that are horizontal primary and certain that are vertical primary, you can run 2 cameras and do both at the same time. And it doesn't take the same effort as going and redoing that shoot again with vertical.
Yeah.
So it's just really a matter of just considering those efficiencies ahead of time.
Yeah.
It's all about planning for it.
Yeah. This is like, I feel like we should call this Miser Hacks with Bill.
It's called producer efficiencies.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Miser Hacks.
I
think that that's I think that that's good. I think like there's a lot, obviously this like conversation is so broad, right? And a lot of what we're talking about is really the sort of like initial planning that many of the creatives are going to do anyway. And it's really just an invitation to really talk to the organization and say, what are the actual like the actual key performance things that you want to see? What are the actual results you want? And then like how let's build a system to facilitate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And really we can play Marvel for this in some ways. Do you know why?
Why?
It used to be when you made a movie, you just like, I'm making a movie. And now it's like, I made a movie about ducks. It's part of my duck verse. You know what I mean? Like the Marvel extended cinematic universe.
Yeah.
Now even these little video, we're making one-off documentary. It's like, it's part of the documentary brand verse. You don't see that?
I hate it. Yeah. I mean, it's 2 different battlefields for attention. But both of them are, let's try to do the best possible stuff in that space.
Yeah. Right.
Because I mean, otherwise the passive viewing stuff is a race to the bottom. And if you don't have these kind of like producer hack kind of things of being able to generate more value for the investment in that, then you're going to just get caught up with all the rest of the stuff.
Because I think even even in the passive world, in passive video world, it's almost like you still need those flagship brand videos things. Like let's say a university, right? If a university wants to catch people's attention and they are actually doing paid ads on things like Instagram or YouTube Shorts or whatever, right? They still need to have a flagship video to give their identity.
Yeah.
Their about us video, the who we are video. That's the sealing the deal. That's the like first date. But the flirting is the passive content where they're like, hey, we're here. Hey, we're here. Hey, we're here. And that sort of brand system can be made. If you are doing an about us video, you can also facilitate the production of secondary content quite easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so much different world.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much for sharing some of your thoughts, producer land thoughts with us.
Sure.
If you're interested on learning more about the production process from our creatives, from our producers, then stay tuned to Heralds and Fools, where we get into the nitty-gritty details of creative life and strategic life with producers. Thanks, Bill.
Yo.
Your little producer heart has cooked up 5 different things to consider. You want to go through those?